In the news tonight, Fijians thankful for the chance to return home. Prime Minister ends wishes, and Arieta spends Mother's Day away from home.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Atera Lendua.
Good evening, Fiji. We go straight to Christiana Uluwai live. Christiana, what's the latest development about COVID-19 as announced by the Permanent Secretary for Health?
Three new confirmed COVID-19 cases after 1,600 tests conducted yesterday, with case 136, the gentleman from Saru in Lautoka. Fortunately, all of these three cases have been in isolation since yesterday. And also the Ministry of Health is also advising people who abused or breached the travel window yesterday, meaning they traveled from a containment zone to a non-containment zone. They have been advised to self-isolate and call the Health Ministry on 158. And also at the containment areas in Suva, Nosori and Lami still remains for at least a week. This comes after an investigation from the Ministry of Health through their screening and testing. And also Dr. Fong noted that the Wainitarawawa community containment restriction currently in place for that settlement in Cunningham and also in Vuniwai in Taviuni will be lifted from tomorrow. However, for the, as I mentioned earlier, the containment zone for Suva, Nosori and Lami still remains. Dr. Fong also highlighted that targeted lockdowns for certain areas across the country, particularly for Vitilevu, is still a possibility if the screening test advise them to do so. And that's all I have from here. Atadha, back to you.
Thank you, Christiana. 4 buses left Suva this afternoon carrying approximately 140 Fijians back home during the travel window provided by the Ministry of Health. The Fiji police force were being stringent in ensuring all passengers note their names, address and phone contact for future contact tracing purposes. Christiana Uluwai again reports.
Operators Association says they were able to have a discussion with the Ministry of Transport yesterday on how to service displaced Fijians.
The process was very nicely done, and the Minister for Transport yesterday had a meeting with us, and then we came to a conclusion that we'll run the buses up to Suva and some of the containment zone to the containment zone, and it happened today.
The government yesterday reiterated that only those who are displaced and falls within the travel category will be permitted to return home, subject to the travel condition.
No other reason for cross-border travel into containment areas is allowed, including for cleaning services. A request we've actually received multiple times, which I cannot believe some people have the audacity to ask the ministry. The fact of the matter is, we have measures in force that can work extremely well, but they can only work if they are respected by everyone.
Some Fijians were happy to be able to return to Suva and reunite with their families.
We went to Lautoka and got stuck there. We are happy to return home. From here, we are going to Tailevu.
I just went for annual leave, and I was actually extended. My leave was actually extended. So my family is back there, so I'm actually thankful that I was able to go and have a long time with my family.
At least 10 minibus operators were advised by police to go home as they are not allowed to operate. This window of travel will close at 11 p.m. tonight. Christiana Uluwai, FBC News.
Fijians were urged to stay home as there is no better gift than to keep all mothers safe during this pandemic this Mother's Day. The Prime Minister says while Mother's Day tradition has always been about small family gatherings, this year we must forego this custom as we cannot afford to be lax. Kritika Kumar reports.
The Prime Minister says for mothers who are frontline warriors battling the deadly virus, it is important to digitally reach out to them and ensure they are safe.
There are mothers right now who are spending every minute of the weekend working as doctors, as nurses, and healthcare staff in Lautoka Hospital and in healthcare centers across the country. There are mothers in quarantine mothers being treated in isolation wards. All of them are sacrificing the comfort of family this weekend for the sake of every Fijian's health and well-being.
Permanent Secretary for Health Dr. James Fong says Fijians need to maintain their small bubble in order to protect their mothers.
If you live at home with your mother or your grandmother, she is in your bubble and you are in her bubble. If you leave the house to see friends, all these people you see and speak with add to your bubble, making it bigger. The bigger the bubble, the bigger the risk.
According to the Health Ministry, today's sacrifice will allow Fijians to be together again in good health and good spirits once our victory over this outbreak is secured. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
This year's Mother's Day celebration is not the same due to the COVID-19 pandemic. FBC News visited the Suva bus stand today, where the majority of mothers were emotional and longing to return to their resident and to see their children. Apinisa Wangarundova reports an anxious mother was in tears as she couldn't travel home because she lives in a non-containment area.
She wants to return home. This will be her first Mother's Day away from her family.
I came to sell at the market and was stuck here because of the lockdown. Today I was just hoping I can be allowed to travel, but that's not possible. In a way I am sad, but this is our way of fighting the pandemic.
Naibua is concerned for her bedridden husband.
My children are home for Mother's Day, but I won't be there this time around. However, I am at peace knowing they will be spending time with their dad, who has been sick for some time.
The window of travel has forced some of these individuals to return home without celebrating Mother's Day with their family.
My mother told me that don't go today, but we have to go back. We don't know when the border will open again.
Bibi, her newborn and husband were in Suva to care for her mother who had fallen sick. While the travel window allowed for some families to be reunited, it is not the same for everyone else with the risk of the virus looming. A decision is yet to be made for those who permanently reside in a non-containment areas. Apinisong Grandobu, FBC News.
The COVID-19 measures and advisories issued by the Ministry of Health and other authorities continue to fall on deaf ears as 35 people were arrested for breaching restrictions and curfew orders. 15 cases of breaching COVID-19 health restrictions and curfew orders were recorded in the Western Division. 2 men in their 20s were found and arrested at Navakai Nandi as they were intoxicated. 6 people were also arrested for drinking liquor at Nawaka, and 5 men were found drunk at Korobo village in Tabua. An 18-year-old man was found loitering during curfew hours in Lotoka, and a 22-year-old man was arrested for not wearing a mask despite being warned several times. 3 fishermen were among the 9 people arrested in the Eastern Division, along with 3 farmers from Nonduru village in Nosori. A 31-year-old man was found drunk at the Mbao landing, and a 42-year-old man with his friend were both arrested in Levuka for breaching curfew. Acting Commissioner of Police Rusiate Tundrabu says the Northern Division recorded 6 cases, including a 34-year-old man who was found drunk in Lambasa during curfew hours, while 5 people were arrested in Naundamu for being intoxicated. The Southern Division recorded 5 cases where 3 men were arrested in Vatuanga for being intoxicated, while 2 were found drinking along the Ratumara Road in Nambua. ACP Tundrabu says they will continue to arrest those not adhering to the measures in place. Coming up, authorities meet to discuss outsourcing of services, and Ministry receives food pack donation. Attorney General Ayaz Said Qayyum met with the Ministry of Health to finalize outsourcing of general practitioners, hotels and companies for grocery delivery. As announced earlier, private general practitioners will soon offer non-COVID related treatments and consultations to those Fijians who normally cannot afford to visit a private practitioner. The government will directly pay private practitioners for the treatment and consultations provided. For those under home quarantine orders, news, the government will be outsourcing grocery delivery services to private companies. The government will directly engage private companies to ensure grocery delivery is done. To increase quarantine quality and capacity, several Suva hotels and motels will be used as quarantine centers for primary contacts of new cases. Fiji bus operators are not leaving any stones unturned whilst operating during the travel window activated for people wishing to return home between containment areas. Association President Nisar Ali says they're happy with the measures in place. He adds that they're also using other means to keep track of people's contact information.
You know, as soon as you tap, your all identification has been captured in that system, and then it's easy to track down from that. We can pick it up and say, okay, this person has traveled during this time, and these are the details through the Vodafone back office.
The Ministry of Health received food ration packs yesterday that will help people in need during this difficult time. Minister Dr. Ifiremi Wangainambete says they have been receiving outpouring support from organizations to help those struggling during this pandemic. Koroi Tandulala reports the ministry received assistance of 80 food packs from China Railway 5 yesterday.
The health minister says the assistance will be directed towards Fijians affected by the pandemic.
The offer of support that you've given us today will be very helpful in the work that we do, especially for people who are affected by not being able to go to work, staying at home, and even those who are in isolation.
China Railway Engineering Group General Manager Jing Ming commended the work being carried out by the ministry in trying to get the virus under control.
This is only the first donation we are proposing to donate. Last but not least, Ministry of Health is really doing a lot of job for Fiji. We feel quite moved.
The ministry continues to emphasize the need to follow COVID-safe practices and make sure that simple things are followed, such as downloading the Care Fiji app, physical distancing, hand hygiene, encouraging people to have their own bubble, and the need to work together to break the chain of COVID-19. Koroi Tandulala, FBC News.
One needs to be passionate in what they do in order to thrive. This has been the driving factor behind Dr. Rachel Devi's success over the years, pledging her service to the country and serving Fijians as a doctor. Kritika Kumar reports with this success story.
Picking a career was difficult for Rachel Devi, as she had to choose between becoming a lawyer or a doctor.
I think I was more drawn towards medicine than to becoming a lawyer. So that passion for some reason was always there, and especially being, I did at some point want to become a cardiologist when I was young, but gradually I guess the Lord had different plans for me and I entered public health. And that's where I've been loving my work ever since.
Devi's dedication and the trust in Christ enable her to overcome her challenges in life.
Challenges, you know, life in itself has a lot of challenges, especially, every step of the way. Obviously, there's competition in every aspect of life, and even with the education sector as well. And I must say I'm very thankful to my parents for seeing me through a lot of these challenges, being supportive right throughout it all. So that's been my biggest strength, I must say, apart from me trusting the Lord in every single step of it.
She graduated with a master's degree from the University of Sydney 5 years ago. Devi says her passion for her job is what keeps her going, despite being in a profession that would sometimes require sacrificing family time.
It's a sacrifice that we pay now, and not just myself, but a lot of healthcare workers, a lot of frontliners actually are paying. So not just me, but a lot of people have literally come into that containment area to stay here away from family to be able to get the work done. So that in itself, I could say, is a challenge, especially that emotional challenge that we have with family bond. And not being able to see your kid and your kid crying back at you is not easy.
Devi, who is leading the COVID-19 vaccination program in the country, says having passion in your work is vital in battling the current health crisis.
Serving the people equates to serving the country. So being passionate about what you do, because when we have the passion that drives us, honestly, it makes a world of a difference.
The mother of one is an inspiring figure for many Fijians, serving the nation in leading Fijians to be vaccinated against the COVID-19 virus, all the while keeping her child in her prayers. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
Coming up, Siltails dedicate win to all mothers. And suspended Varman looks for new lawyer. This and more coming up. A win couldn't have come at the right time for the Kaiwiti Siltails as they recorded their 7th victory in the Ron Massey Cup competition. The West Naingama coached side dedicated the 42-20 win over the Ride Eastward Hawks to their mothers and wives this Mother's Day. Dale Materakula reports.
The win is surely a sweet Mother's Day gift for all the mothers and wives of the players.
Happy Mother's Day to my mom and auntie back at home. I'm sorry that Pat and I are not at home to celebrate with you, likewise my siblings in England. But I pray that God will shower his blessings on the two of you.
Player Tomasi Vakandranu lives by the quote that behind every strong man is a stronger woman.
Happy Mother's Day, I want to wish the mother of my child a happy Mother's Day. To my mom, we know the struggle we went through over the years, but here I am chasing my dream, and I thank you for all the support. To my aunt, thank you for supporting me when my parents went through a rough patch.
Coach West Naingama says the success of the team so far is credited to the support from their mothers.
To wish my mom and all the mothers of all the boys a happy Mother's Day. Thank you for all that you have done for us, especially for me, Mum. Thanks for making me the man that I am today and continually supporting me and uplifting me and supporting me.
The Siltails will rebuild and piece together a plan for the clash against the Hills Bulls, scheduled for the 22nd of this month. Tale Materkula, FBC Sports.
Suspended Fiji Football Association's referee director Rakesh Varman is left to look for a new lawyer to represent him and his alleged littering case. This as lawyer Jiten Reddy, who was initially representing Varman, pulled out. Reddy has cited conflict of interest as the reason due to his post as the vice president of Fiji FA. Varman told FBC Sports that he is currently in talks with his second lawyer. He is awaiting confirmation from another lawyer on whether he will represent Varman on the matter. The suspended referee's director was filmed allegedly dumping rubbish on a beach along the Coral Coast in Singatoka, an incident alleged to have occurred in March. Fijian-born winger Sevu Reece scored a try to help the Crusaders to their second Super Rugby Aotearoa title. The Scott Robertson side defeated the Chiefs 24-13 in the final at Orange Theory Stadium. The Reds have claimed the Super Rugby AU final after securing a 19-16 win over the Brumbies at Suncorp Stadium last night. An 84th minute try by James O'Connor handed Queensland the title. The Cowboys edged the Broncos with a courageous 19-18 win in Townsville off the back of a Valentine Holmes field goal. It was the fourth time since 2015 that these two sides have been separated by only 1 point. Manchester City must wait a little longer to claim the Premier League title. Sergio Aguero made a mess of a penalty as Chelsea edged City 2-1 in their clash this morning. Heavy rain alert is now in force for the eastern half and southern parts of Viti Levu, Kandavo nearby smaller islands, southern Lao and Lomai Viti group. This as a high-pressure system to the far south of Fiji continues to direct a fresh to strong southeast wind flow over the group. In the west, a cloudy day with some showers in the afternoon. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, it was a gloomy day with rain experienced intermittently throughout the day. Up north, Mostly fine weather in Mombasa and cloudy periods with some showers and possible isolated afternoon thunderstorms in Savusavu. At sea, moderate southeasterly swells, southeast winds 25 to 30 knots, rough to very rough seas. Turning to the tides, the next high tide is at 5:42 a.m. tomorrow, followed by low tide at 12:01 p.m. Sunrise is at 6:23. Outlook for tomorrow: for the rest of Fiji, expect cloudy periods with afternoon or evening showers and thunderstorms with heavy falls. And looking further on to Tuesday, occasional rain, heavy at times, and a few thunderstorms over most places. Recapping our main stories, Fijians thankful for the chance to return home. Prime Minister sends well wishes to all mothers, and Arieta spends Mother's Day away from home. For these stories and others, you can tune in daily to our sister radio station, Gold FM. To our poll question, this week we're asking, do you think some Fijians were lying to get food ration in the Suva-Nosori corridor? Visit our FBC website to answer. And you can send us newsworthy pictures and videos on email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports, and also listen to our 6 FBC radio stations live. That's your news for this evening. From the team and I would like to wish you mothers a very happy Mother's Day. Stay safe and good night.